Hello YouTube. So what I have up on the screen is a multi-session market profile. It's different from the daily in that you can define which times of the day the session starts. So basically I can select this blue one and I get this box over here that says Sydney. So you can change these times, right? So after Sydney you get basically London and then New York, right? And it moves on to the next day, Sydney again. So what's sometimes useful is, doesn't happen all the time, but an auction tends to begin and end at certain times, and you can use that basically to say, even though we are on the 30-minute chart, we can say the high or the low of the session or the day usually begins within the first hour and a half. So if you notice, the capital A prints first for the first 30 minutes as it moves up and down, and then the B gets overlaid on top wherever it gets printed, right? And then it moves on to C and D, right? So if you notice here, for this Sydney session, the B is at the low of the session. So it took 1 hour basically to set the low, right? And then as we move on to the next session, which would be London, we have a C printed and it doesn't exceed that, right? So then the market moves down lower, right? So again, it took about 90 minutes to set that, right? And then the next session, there was a lot of confidence in this session. So we set the A and then it just moved further. So what I mean by confidence is that when the market opened, it was like the auction just went one way. This day it didn't really one time frame down perfectly, but it moved with a lot of confidence, right? So you can see now this day is a little bit different. There's not much activity, so there's not much opportunity. And again, this day here, again, not a whole lot, but you can see the profile's P-shape. So there was some short covering here. But again, it didn't really work out for our idea that within about an hour and a half the higher low is set. Typically when there's more activity, I would say that's more likely to happen, because you can see here, so we had London, right, and then New York, right? So the effect of London was translated into the New York session where we see the C printed. So again, that would be the third print of that particular session. So that would take about 90 minutes to get to that point, right? And then that was the high being set, right, as part of a weak excess, I guess, and then it comes down, right? So you can see this, like, you can find it on the daily chart, obviously, so it's quite useful for that, because just the way the times work out. So like, I always keep Eastern Standard Time on my computer, so if you say, well, the new financial day begins at midnight, so that would be 0000 Eastern Standard Time, right? It would take a couple hours for London to basically open, right? So by that time you'd be printing C or D, and really what's happening is that there's always that fake out, right, with the news. If there's news, right, it'll be more obvious and you'll see it, right? So basically you can take this idea and look at different sessions and days, and it is quite useful. But again, it's just one of these things you keep in your tool bag, and you can't analyze the market strictly based on one or two of these things. You got to put all the tools together, right? It's all about context. And another thing a lot of traders do is that they base their previous information, right, and they set their bias, right? So then if you see information that's like market generated information, which is what market profile is all about, so if you see new information that's conflicting your previous bias, it causes you to take a trade that you might be making a mistake, right? So the thing about market profile is that you see that the market is giving you information like that's present, right? So if you see signs that, well, the market's going higher, right, but then you see signs in the past, well, you've got to understand that, well, maybe the market is making a decision and the market is now different at this point, right? So, and that's kind of the weakness of using a bar chart in a way, because I know we all like seeing information in the past, and the problem with a lot of trading is that to find the opportunity on the extreme right hand side of the chart is the challenge. So hopefully market profile will be able to sort some of that out for you, because there's so many little clues it gives you